Just your thoughts on the performance last game.
Well, it was obviously it was great to get a win. And anytime you can hold anybody to no touchdowns in a game, that's hard to do in this day and age with offenses the way they are. I thought our kids showed tremendous focus, tremendous fight. They were relentless in their effort from the first snap to the end. And we created a couple of situations, we had 2 plays, created a couple of situations where we put our backs against the wall and they never flinched at all. And then we go into overtime and we played 4 overtimes and they gained 2 yards in 4 overtimes. You know, proud of the effort, but just like I told you, you know, after a game that doesn't scoreboard-wise fit what we want, after a game scoreboard-wise where it does, no touchdowns, there's still a laundry list of things we can improve on, that we will improve on. I told you last week that we were not satisfied with our red zone defense. Obviously, our guys, they corrected that, obviously. So there's always a laundry list of things we can do better. And it's a growing process. It never ends. And so proud of what they did, though.
What makes the difference week to week? I mean, same players, same defensive coordinator, same scheme.
Not always same defense coordinator.
But you know, what I'm getting at is 1 week it works. Like this week, now obviously the competition is a factor, but then there's been weeks where it just didn't work. And you know, where's that fine line? What turns the tide in that story?
It comes down to, you know, us coaching and making sure that they understand things that will help them be successful, and then execution. You know, eye discipline, doing your job, know your job, do your job. That goes from me all the way to, you know, the manager and everybody in between. And so no football player ever looks the same on defense. You know, you sit up there and you say, well, they're in the same formation, they ran the same play. Well, you know, the angle of the block wasn't the same, the release of the wide receiver to his block wasn't the same. Nothing is ever the same. And so it's adjusting all the time. It's adjusting all the time. But it really comes down to just everybody knowing their job and doing their job.
Coach, you said
talking earlier about just the level of, maybe a couple of weeks ago, Leonard Taylor, just some complaints, whether, I think he said maybe a little bit more of a commitment to his body and stuff like that. Just what have you kind of seen click with him over these last
maturity.
weeks?
It's just, you know, you go from being a high school senior to a freshman to a sophomore, and, you know, I've seen it through the years. And it's just, that's just the way it works. You just, it's a job, that takes repetition, and particularly in the line of scrimmage. You know, every now and then you can get a young corner out there and just say, okay, go out there on the island, and he won the 100 meters in a state, and nobody's going to run past him just because he's that fast. He still has to develop his technique and his eyes, but that's a little bit easier than 300 pounds on one ear and 300 pounds on the other ear. That's just repetition and maturity.
Coach, you said earlier this year that Caleb Johnson and Corey Flagg couldn't play together. They played the same position, but we saw them out there quite a bit. What changed, and then how do you think they played?
Well, we moved one of them. Yeah. That's what changed. You know, we just felt like with the injury that we'd had, Wesley had an injury, and so then and Steve had an injury, and we just felt like to keep the best 3 on the field, somebody had to move. And so Corey, being the guy that was, you know, he's more seasoned in what we do, he moved to the position. So Caleb did not move. He played the same position.
How do you think they looked together?
They played well.
What have you made of Corey Flagg's development? Obviously, 99 tackles for loss, made a big play in overtime.
Excuse me, who?
Corey Flagg.
Yeah. What
have you made of his development this season?
Well, it's the same as what you say. Same thing with Leonard. He's getting comfortable in the defense, the repetition of it. He has become very astute in quarterbacking the defense, but he's also become really good at understanding what they're going to do and dissecting that in terms of preparing for the game, understanding that okay, in this set they're going to do this, this, and this. They can't do this. Sometimes it's more important to know what offense is not going to do than be necessarily 100% right at what they're going to do. They can do this, this, and this, but they can't do this out of the set. So it just condenses things for you, slows things. The game slowed down for them.
Kevin, you've been on sidelines for a lot of like really great rivalry games, and you've coached in the FSU Miami rivalry before. How does this rivalry compare to others that you've been
Well, you know, having been in the Oklahoma, Nebraska, you know, been in that game, South Carolina, Clemson game, Clemson, Florida State game, Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, Tennessee, Alabama. Yeah, I've been in a few of them. And then, of course, the Florida State, Miami game. 5 of those, 2 of them in 1 year. And I think 03, I think it was, we played in the Orange Bowl after playing in the season. The ironic thing is really strange about that, and I remember this very vividly. I think you have to go look it up, and I think I'm correct in saying this. I don't think in those 5 games any team scored over 20 points except one time Miami scored 22, and I think it was like 22-13. The rest of them were like 13-10, 10-9, you know, 14-13. It was a little bit like last Saturday. There's a whole lot of defense and not much offense. That's what I remember. But if you go back to those days, that was kind of the hallmark of those 2 teams.
Mitchell Goudet played a whole lot. Obviously, Akeem, we saw went down. Mesidor. Just can you talk to maybe Mitchell's game and the improvement he's making?
Well, he's a football player. He's a very heavy-handed guy, and he's one of the best edge setters that I've been around in terms of when you got pullers coming or tight ends slicing across the back to block the defensive end. It's kind of fun to watch. I'm just being real with you. They come back, or they pull out there, they come back across there, and the game starts, and they're smoking. And then after about the 3rd time of getting to Mitchell, they kind of start slowing down a little bit. Some of them even turning their head a little bit. He's just a physical guy. He loves to compete. He's smart, very heavy-handed, very thick when he contacts you. I mean, he's a good defensive end, particularly at setting the edge. And then he's relentless in his pass rush. He just, you know, he's not the sleek type pass rusher that some people have, but he's just so relentless with it that sometimes he out-physicals you.
And then just follow the challenge of Florida State, their offense. Jordan Travis, when I asked about them.
Yeah, Florida State's offense. Well, it's you know, Mike Norvell, the head coach, the play caller, the designer, they're very multiple in what they do, and this is a little bit different. You can go into most games and say, okay, this is the base things they're going to do, and you're going to see them every week. You can watch games against Florida State this year and not see the same thing. One game's completely different from another game. And so, you know, we're going to have to be really good at adjusting to the unknowns this week, because we're going to see stuff that's not on Florida State film. Now, it's the same runs, it's the same passes, but it's masked completely different every week.
Jordan Travis has passed for 500 more yards this year than he did all of last year. Talk to us about the challenges he brings as quarterback for Florida.
Yeah, I didn't keep up with him last year. Most of the film I watched last year was another conference, so I did not see him. So now I went back in the summer, obviously, and watched a great deal. I think he's staying in the pocket longer now. He really would pull it down and run quick last year. He's staying in the pocket. Things are developing more for him. I think the game slowed down for him. He's throwing really accurate. But there's always that potential of him beating you with your feet. You know, he can escape. So, you know, he's a very, very good challenge for us, to say the least.
Coach, obviously this is an emotional game, and at times the defense will try to make plays and not be as disciplined. How do you kind of taper their emotions in a game like this? So
Simple. You can play the game of football with emotion. You can't be emotional. It's 2 different things. You know, you can have excitement and energy, but when you start reacting to things and become emotional based on what happened or what didn't happen, then you can get lost in this game. You know.
And how can they not give up as many big plays as they have during the season with tapering their emotions?
Okay, now, I'll go ahead and ask you, can I? You want to name those big plays? Because I got the list of them. So as many as, are you seeing something different than I see?
Well, the last game there were a couple of big plays that were.
That's 2.
That were given up.
Okay, that's 2.
Yeah, just how can.
All right, now what football game did you watch Saturday that didn't have big plays in it? Did you watch any?
Of course.
There's big plays. Offensive make big plays. The bottom line is you don't let them score. Okay? So, and I'm just being candid with you. All right? So we can't paint a picture like these kids have not gone out there and done some really, really good things, and you just blanket statement that there's been multiple egregious amount of big plays. We've had our share. That's on me. It's unacceptable, but it's not. You can't tell me the number. I can tell you, and it's not a lot. Now go ahead and ask your question.
So, I mean, how can this team just be more disciplined against Florida State? Yeah.
It's no different for any other team. It's know your job, do your job. Have eye discipline and communication, simply put. And for me to coach better. Where it starts ends.
We'll do a couple more for Coach Steele.
Coach, so just another question about, Leonard Taylor. What about him makes him such a uniquely talented player on the defensive line?
He's big, strong, and fast. Simply put, very, very talented. That's DNA.
How about Al Blades, the way he stepped in and played for James? How did he perform?
Really good. Played really, really well. We've gotten some very meaningful snaps out of him. He is very intelligent. It means a lot to him. Means a lot to him. So he played very well. It really helped us because, as you know, I know when y'all probably heard it, James was out. You thought, okay, what's going to happen here? By the halftime, that wasn't a question anymore.
Coach, I just want to touch on, you touched on the 03 rivalry game, Miami, Florida State. The one up there, Sean Taylor had one of these memorable performances. Your perspective, do you remember him in that game?
Yeah.
What do you?
He was on the other side of the ball, of course, when we were making adjustments, but yeah. Great players in great games, you remember.
Can I ask you, obviously with the injuries at the linebacker position, any chance you see more of Chase Smith or some of the other younger guys or any of them coming along at that spot?
Pardon me now.
I'm saying a couple of guys obviously are dinged up,
right.
The Saint, I know was the most recent Steed, I know Coach mentioned he's been back there. Just curious, is there any chance, that we'll start seeing Chase Smith and some of the other younger?
Chase is out.
Oh, Chase is out too?
Yeah.
Okay.
At this present time, he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else that you might work at?
We're down on numbers from there.
Okay.
Hey Kevin, how
last question for
many reps can a defensive tackle like a Leonard Taylor take in a game and maintain their level of effectiveness? He's bounced I think between like 20 and 30 all year. He's playing better than he's ever played in his career. Is he ready for more? Like, can he go more than 20 to 30 reps?
Yeah, we only played 54 regular snaps. I mean, we've been pretty low in our snap count, But yeah, he can. And it's also how long are drives? Are you coming off a 13-play drive or are you coming off of a 3 and out? It's a whole lot easier to go back in after a 3 and out than it is after a 13-play drive at that weight body structure. And we try to keep the guys fresh, keep the pitch count right and relative, but then the best players are going to be on the field when they need to be on the field. And so, and sometimes you get that wrong. You rest a guy in the second quarter, so you got him in the third and fourth quarter, and then you play really well and get a lot of 3 and outs like we did the other day, and I think 54, 56 snaps in the game, and then you said, well, we could have played him more in the second quarter, but we didn't have a crystal ball to know what was going to happen in the third and fourth quarter. And you know what? It may have him being fresh in that overtime. It may be why they gained 2 yards in 4 possessions.
How do you keep track of that during the game? Like,
there's somebody assigned to each position. They keep track of it. Yeah, it's a little ticker.